My name is Jessica Carlisle, and my life has forever been changed. On November 23rd, 2014, I lost Branson. For 8 years, I grew up in a very unstable environment. I was in a physical, mental, and drug abusive situation. When I was 8 years old, we had a car accident that changed everything. I broke my leg and my brother was pronounced dead. He was sent to Birmingham Children's Hospital, where they said that he would not be normal again. He'd had to learn how to walk, talk, and everything. And now he walks around, he stands in church, and it's like he never had anything wrong with him. The doctor said that there's no way that it could have been anything, that it had to have been God moving in his life. He come home and he started walking with broken hips, and he wasn't supposed to walk. He was supposed to be in a wheelchair. My mom changed her life, and she got everything together for us kids. And at 17, I met a guy, was in a relationship with him, and I became pregnant with Branson. On January 10th, 2009, we were in Santa Fe Steakhouse parking lot, and out of nowhere, he just started beating on me. He climbed on top of me and started choking me and telling me to die. Everything went black, and I couldn't breathe, and I thought then I was dead, and I just started begging God to save my life, to not let this happen, to not let this happen. Branson shouldn't have made it. I'd been hit in the stomach. I'd had my head put through a window. I was being choked to death. November 22nd, 2014, on Saturday, everything was normal. We went skating. We had a good day. Bought him new clothes. Laid down that night to go to bed. And I always prayed for Branson. Always prayed and always prayed. But I never prayed thanking God for the years that I had. My last prayer that I prayed for Branson, I thanked God for 5.5 years. And I told him I knew at any given time that he could take Branson away from me, but I'd be grateful and I'd be thankful for the 5.5 years that I always had. Sunday morning we woke up. He woke me up at 7:46 and he told me that he had been bitten by something and his back itched. That was typical Branson, always wanting his back scratched or something. So I went to scratch his back and I seen where he had gotten bitten. And I went and picked up a shirt, and there was a spider in his shirt. We waited on him to eat his breakfast, and if we wouldn't have, then we would have they wouldn't have seen the systemic reaction. They would have sent us home before it happened, and we would have thought, he just had the flu or something. When we got to Huntsville Hospital, Branson was hemolysis, and it's the breakdown of the red blood cells that carries oxygen throughout your vital organs. His hemolysis count was 937, which meant he was going hours without oxygen to his organs. Somehow, not by anything that they did, but by grace of God and by God touching him, he made it until 11:10 that night. He said before we left to go to the hospital that he wasn't scared of anything anymore, and the only reason why he wasn't scared was because God told him not to be scared. God was touching him all throughout that day. When they separated us and they left us in the hallway and they wheeled him back into the ICU unit, he turned and looked at us and he told us, "I love you to the moon and back." And that was the last thing that he had said to us. As we were sitting in the hallway, the doctor came out to talk to me and my sister. We talked to her for about 2 minutes, and then the nurse opened the door and called for her. And we started listening to the song "In the Arms of the Angel." Branson's heart had stopped in the middle of the song when it says, "Fly away from this cold hospital room." When I went into the room with him during the resuscitation, when I first went in, it was just a major shock. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. And I stepped outside and spoke to the doctor and regrouped. When I walked into the room with him for the second time, there was a peace that just came over me. And you could see the peace in the hospital room, and you could feel it, and you could see it on everybody's faces. I knew then that was it. That was time. That he was no longer with us. That he was with God. At the end of everything, they told us that they had done resuscitation for 71 minutes. They shocked him 17 times, gave him 27 units of O-negative blood, and they gave him 8 injections of plasma. And every single time they would give him blood or plasma, it would break down in his body. was standing in the room. They shocked him for the 17th time, and his heart beat for 4 seconds, and I had enough time to say, "I love you, Branson." And then it stopped. A few weeks passed by. The doctor who did Branson's autopsy called me to tell me that everything that they said had happened in his body was completely wrong. He had no kidney failure, he had no liver failure, he had no organ failure whatsoever. He had full brain function whenever his heart just stopped beating. Medically, he had gone without oxygen to his brain for almost 7 hours. And he told me he didn't know if I was a religious person. And he wasn't a religious person. But when he performed the autopsy on Branson, he found religion, because it was a miracle that Branson survived 7.5 hours without any oxygen to his brain. November 23rd was the biggest tragedy that I've ever experienced in my entire life, and I believe that I will ever experience. That day I was given the option to just roll over and die and not live. However, the way I see it, God didn't give me that choice. He didn't give me that option to just roll over. He didn't give me a choice of anything. The only choice that I had was to push on and to push to find Him. I didn't have the choice to step outside of my faith, because if I step outside of my faith, then I wouldn't be able to walk the walk that I walk, and I wouldn't be able to have the strength that I have, because it's not my strength that carries me through losing Branson. It's God's strength. Branson was so filled with God and just the Holy Spirit, and I know that to give him everything that he ever deserved, I've got to find God the way that he found God at 5 years old, and I've got to be as filled, if not more filled, than what he was, to be able to walk with him, or I'm not going to get to that point, and I'm not going to be where he's at. I'm Jessica Carlisle, and this is my story, and I'm pursuing my dreams.